Let's move on to Essendon versus West Coast. And it was Essendon today in a pretty solid performance, albeit West Coast looked as if they were a sniff late in the match. Lee, take us through the key moments of this encounter, which has Essendon a game clear in the top four.
Well, it was a good game, actually. It was a free-flowing, high-scoring game, and really I thought the Eagles were pretty solid. I mean, they're not the easy beats they were early in the year. The game was very even early, 4 goals apiece. It's the first goal of the game by Waterman. He got his 3, but it was a really good, solid game. They were probably winning the stoppage part of the game, the Eagles, but the second quarter is when Essendon got their match-winning lead, and their forwards were marking the ball. They had eight inside 50 marks in the first half. That got them the goals, got them the break at half time, and but then in the third quarter they started to really come again. The Eagles. That's what I say. They were quite impressive. They kicked 5 goals, missed a couple of shots towards the end of the third quarter. So it was a 13-point margin at three-quarter time, and we see this highlight shows the free-flowing nature of the game. A lot of both teams were able to get through the centre square, run through the 50-metre line. Durham there kicked one of the last couple of goals. And then the last one over the top, Heppel, who pushed up from half-back to kick the final goal that got the margin out to 30 points. So Essendon were impressive enough, but I did think that the Eagles did pretty even number of scoring shots, even number of inside 50s, but they just were much better with their conversion rate, Essendon. That got them home today.
I love the story of Sam Durham, Jimmy. I love the story of Zach Merritt, who I think is the best captain in the AFL, got tagged today, had 29 and 1. But I'm eternally interested in Jake Stringer. He kicked 5 goals today. It was the second time or third time this year that he's kicked 4 or more goals in a game. And he continues to lift when his team needs it most. But he is out of contract. Put your list management hat on. What is he worth if Essendon want to keep him, do you think, across how many years?
So you're saying Essendon keep him or on the open market?
Essendon.
I think you keep it on a short-term deal, 2 years. You keep him on edge, but also you've got to remember the cap jumps pretty soon. So he's a point of difference. He can play forward, can be in the centre bounce, he can break games up, and I think he's a $700,000 to $800,000 player. I
really wonder whether another club would offer him 3 years at more than that and whether he'd be tempted, because I don't think Essendon can afford to lose him, given I use this term loosely, but they are entering an era where they'd be wanting to win a premiership, and he'd be crucial to that, Lee.
He's definitely a match winner. That's the point. He's an inconsistent match winner over his career. But today, he was a match winner, kicked his 5 goals, and he's had a really good year. And I think we made the comment early on the year, when he looks fit, he plays really well. So you wouldn't want to be having a long-term contract, because he has been inconsistent over his career. But at his best, he's a $1 million player. At his best, he's a $1 million player.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And $1 million player sounds ridiculous for a bloke who's that age, but you're right. At his absolute best, he's an incredible footballer. We'll wait and see how that plays out in the coming weeks. Nate Caddy is at the other end of his career, playing just his second game today. He was a late inclusion for Todd Goldstein, and he kicked 2 goals, and Brad Scott was full of praise after the match.
He's got elite AFL attributes. Even though he's a first-year player, he can play as a key forward, and that's usually you're playing on key defenders who have been in the system for 10 years and, bigger, more experienced. But Cads has got attributes that he can work around that. We watched him as a junior and thought, there's potential for him to play in the midfield at some point. So that's how good we think he is at ground level, and how athletic he is.
So he's 193 centimetres, Nate Caddy, the same height as Nick Riewoldt, 1 centimetre shorter than Charlie Curnow, taken pick 10 in last year's draft. He's certainly one to watch. What did you make of the West Coast Eagles, Jimmy?
As Lee said, they were pretty impressive. They boxed on. They're having a crack, but they've got a big room for improvement. If they take away anything from this game, it's their transition when they don't have the footy. Not necessarily unfit Eagles. It's more a reflection on how young they are, their midfield group, being able to sustain the pressure once the ball leaves the initial contest, and also a number of senior players who have come back or battled injuries over recent years. And you just look at the number that jumped, or the 2 numbers that jumped out off the page, and you have a look at all the space that Essendon's got here. It was uncontested possession, but minus 110,
wow,
which is a huge amount, and minus 49, nearly minus 50 marks. And it was just this end-to-end nature that they gave up. They couldn't stop it at the source. And when Barras is taking 9 intercept marks, which is awesome, all the defensive group for the Eagles is just asking for a bit of pressure on the ball. And what Essendon were able to do really well is, once they turned the footy over, they just kept it. So they kicked 11 goals from their back 50. To give you an idea, it's an average across the league of about 5 a game. So twice the amount. So for the Eagles, when you don't have the footy, you've got to do just as much running to stop the outlets.
All right, Fremantle versus the Gold Coast Suns was the last game of this weekend in Perth. Jimmy, take us through how it played out.
Yeah, Freo, well, they were criticised after their lacklustre effort by the coach, and they certainly responded really well. And everyone's looking for Gold Coast to try and win a game away from home. They'll have to wait another week, the Suns. They need to play 13 games at home at the moment to get your road to 13. Flanders and Miller both had a heap of the footy, 33 touches. Sam Day, who's a bit of a forgotten son, really, won the original Suns, kicked a couple of goals and good contested marks. But the talking point for me, or the big plus for Freo, is midfield goals. We've been screaming out for their midfield to actually put some more pressure on the opposition, their ability to get forward, because they win a heap of the footy. But can they do some damage going forward? The ball, Clark, who's been in great form, we thought he was going to kick goal of the year here, but then he set up a beautiful pass to one of those midfielders in Brayshaw. He kicked a goal, Sarong kicked a goal, Young kicked 3, even big Sean Darcy kicked a goal. Just to put that into context, what we're asking, the 3 midfielders, Sarong, Brayshaw and Young, who kicked 9 for the year, today they kicked 5. So that's what we want. And we see Braden Ellis coming up here. This is when we thought the Suns might have had boxed on and had a little bit of a sniff, and they kept battling away. He's trying to hype the crowd. It's not his crowd. He's doing almost Sydney Olympics triple jump sort of stuff, get the crowd involved. But Freo steadied through the maturity of O'Meara, and that was the sealer there. So the Dockers secure their place back inside the 8.
Yeah, they're 5th, 1 game out of the 4. Gold Coast 12th. Lee, I want to ask you about this grab from Justin Longmuir last week when he was extremely critical of his players. Quite out of character to hear Justin Longmuir, I guess, this forthright.
There's no doubt in the seniors on the weekend that guys were worried more about how many possessions they got than how they competed in the contest, how they pressured the opposition and how they defended. That's not what I stand for as a coach.
Yeah, it's a sharp message, but a good one, I think. He didn't individualise, so that was fine. No one's going to get their nose out of joint. Or they all get their nose out of joint. So what he's saying is don't go putting your too much weight on just numbers of disposal stats you get. There's a lot of other things in the game that are important, and that was the message he was sending. He certainly would have elaborated on that message privately on what he was looking for. And they won by 2-8 today, so they won sort of quite comfortably, even though they kicked inaccurately. But no, the message got across. Sometimes coaches think I'll put it out there in the media and then everyone knows about it, and sometimes they only do it behind closed doors. So it was interesting that he popped it out in the public forum.
I loved it, Lee. Very pointed, and I hope we hear more of it from Justin Longmuir over the next few years. I love it when coaches are honest like that. The last heat tonight is the Gold Coast Suns. And I'm sick of saying it, Jimmy. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and they're yet to win a game away from home this year. They're 0-7, and the road to 13 has just got a little bit more difficult. So for the Gold Coast Suns, they travel to Perth coming up. They travel to Marvel Stadium twice. They travel to the MCG once. And can they pinch 2 of these? That's the question, because at the moment, they're in a situation where there's 9 more matches, 4 at home, and each 6 wins. Assuming they win those 4 at home, Jimmy, which is an assumption, can they pinch 2 of those away games? I want the Suns to play finals. I'm willing them to play finals, but I'm losing confidence.
Well, they'd be probably eyeing off North Melbourne, West Coast and Richmond on the way home, considering where they'll be on the ladder and what they'll be doing at their stage of the season. So they'd be probably thinking, can they get 2 of those 3 to get the 2 away wins that you're looking for to get their 13?
Love them to get 13. Still a lot of footy to be played this year.